Displaced History is a work of speculative fiction. While it draws from real historical figures and events, all scenarios, conversations, and outcomes are fictional and intended for entertainment and thought-provoking exploration only.
This is Displaced History. Genius Displaced, History Rewritten. Episode 2. Genius in the Sand. It is the 13th century before the Common Era. Egypt, the empire of the sun, stands at its peak. Under the rule of Ramesses II, colossal temples stretch skyward. Priests whisper to the gods. Scribes inscribe the heavens onto papyrus. And deep in the deserts near Thebes, something impossible is about to happen. A man appears, not from Canaan, not from Nubia, but from a future no one here could fathom. He arrives barefoot and bewildered, his white hair wild with static. His linen tunic, not woven in Egypt, clings awkwardly in the wind. In his hand, a stick. In his eyes, the stars. He draws a spiral into the sand and stares at it like a man trying to remember a dream. His name is Albert Einstein, and the world around him is about to change forever. Einstein's arrival doesn't go unnoticed. By midday, the stranger with strange eyes has drawn the attention of local priests. He is brought to the temple precinct of Karnak, not in chains, but in curiosity. The high priest watches him closely. Scribes gather in the shadows. Einstein, still silent, lifts a stick and begins to draw shapes in the dust. Circles, winds, intersecting angles. He traces the path of the sun, pointing from the east horizon to the west. Then he bends low and with one finger dots a line of stars overhead. Sirius, Orion, the Dipper. No one speaks his language, but everyone understands what he's doing. Among the observing priests is a young astronomer, scribe named Tutankhamun. She watches as Einstein shifts from drawing stars to mimicking the motion of the sun across the sky with his hand and a shadow stick. She recognizes the gesture, a sundial, but Einstein takes it further. He draws a new kind of instrument, one that marks not just daytime hours, but the alignment of stars at night, a hybrid of sun and starlight, a device no one has ever seen. Over the following weeks, he builds it. Using local bronze, obsidian, and lapis lazuli, Einstein constructs a rotating disk, a kind of star clock that aligns with Sirius and other decans to track both time and the seasons. He adjusts it constantly, correcting its angles, refining its ratios. Every time the priests think the device is complete, Einstein finds a flaw. A pattern not quite aligned, a calculation just slightly off. They begin to revere him, not as a prophet, but as a craftsman of the cosmos. We spoke with Dr. Layla Hassan, Egyptologist, about what this would have meant to temple society.
If Einstein appeared during Ramesses II's reign, Karnak would be the ideal stage. It was a hub for astronomy. He already tracked Sirius to predict the Nile flood, but his device would take that tradition and supercharge it. Imagine seeing someone build a calendar that never drifts, not by offering to the gods, but by understanding the universe. He would have shocked them not just with his invention, but with his humility, constant refinement. Egypt shows respected mastery. He wasn't claiming divine power. He was showing divine order.
When Einstein unveils the finished star clock during a festival in Thebes, the priests gather in solemn silence. He turns the device in front of the crowd and points upward. As the stars align with its armature, a carved dial shifts, and right on cue, the Sirius star rises above the temple gate. The crowd gasps. A ripple of reverence moves through them. Later that night, the temple scribes begin copying Einstein's diagrams onto scrolls. The high priest calls it a gift of Thoth. Einstein says nothing. He only smiles faintly, then walks back into the dark, toward the stars that brought him here. The invitation comes at dawn. Einstein is summoned to the palace at Pyramesses, the bustling capital of Pharaoh Ramesses II. Guards flank him. Priests walk silently at his side. The court is tense. The pharaoh has heard of this clockmaker, this scribe of the sky. He is intrigued. But Ramesses is not a man easily impressed. Inside a hall of towering columns, Ramesses sits beneath a canopy of gold and lapis. Behind him, murals of conquest and gods locked in battle. Before him, a man from the future, barefoot and weather-worn, holding a scroll. Einstein bows awkwardly. The pharaoh speaks through a translator. He asks, "Is it true you can speak to the stars?" Einstein points up, then draws a curved path with his hand. The pharaoh watches, then smiles. He doesn't need magic. He needs advantage. Here's physicist Dr. Amir Farid.
This is where things turn. Ramesses was a military tactician. If he saw Einstein not just as a priestly sage, but as someone who could measure the world, he would have wanted to harness that knowledge. Not just for temples, for empire.
Over the following days, Einstein is granted access to the royal court. He dines with engineers, astronomers, even generals. The pharaoh asks questions that echo from the future. Can the stars guide armies? Can structures rise faster, stronger? Can storms be predicted before they come? Einstein is careful. He explains principles, but withholds blueprints. He teaches with metaphor, not mathematics. And yet, the pharaoh listens. In the courtyard, Einstein shows Ramesses how to measure time more precisely using the shadow of an obelisk. He speaks softly, not to command the sky, but to understand it. The pharaoh nods, but the hunger in his eyes betrays more than curiosity. We asked Professor Omar El-Sadeh, a philosopher of science, what this moment represents.
This is the eternal tension, knowledge and power. Einstein was always haunted by how his ideas could be used. In Egypt, he's staring directly into that risk. He's a man displaced not just in time, but in purpose. He didn't come to build empire, but empire may build itself from him.
At night, Einstein retreats to a private garden above the Nile. He watches the moon rise and sketches patterns in the sand. In one corner of the courtyard, a soldier sharpens a blade. Einstein closes his eyes. He knows that in this world, like in his own, light can be turned into fire. While the pharaoh dreams of conquest, a quieter revolution begins in the shade of Kemple libraries and village courtyards. Einstein is no longer just the man from the stars. He is now a teacher. Each morning, he walks to the scribble school beside the Temple of Amun, a bundle of scrolls under one arm. Children gather, the sons of stonemasons, bakers, even boatmen, not just the elite. They come to watch him draw. He teaches them to use rope to form perfect triangles. He shows them how to find north, using the stars and a bowl of water. He marks shadows on the wall to track time and teaches how to divide by using the motion of the sun.
Egyptian education was traditionally limited to a tiny priestly class. If Einstein had shown them that geometry and astronomy could be taught, that it wasn't divine mystery but accessible knowledge, it would have changed everything. That's the beginning of a knowledge society.
Scrolls begin circulating, not with hymns or royal decrees, but with patterns, diagrams, even simple equations. Artisans use them to build straighter columns. Surveyors apply them to lay cleaner irrigation paths. Young scribes start copying Einstein's drawings into their own journals. In the village of Waset, a blacksmith's daughter begins drawing planetary paths into clay. Her teacher says she's possessed by a thinking spirit. In another town, a merchant repurposes a shadow stick into a rudimentary compass. And then, the diplomats arrive. Traders from Nubia, Byblos, and Babylon enter the capital for a seasonal festival. Among the spices and scrolls, they find something unexpected: knowledge. A Babylonian envoy stares at Einstein's rotating star chart in awe. He calls it a moving map of the heavens. Einstein speaks no Akkadian, but he understands the gesture when the envoy bows.
This is how ideas move, not through declarations, but through awe. When Babylonian or Nubian scholars saw Egyptian youth using these tools, they didn't see foreign magic. They saw possibility. And once possibility enters a civilization, everything changes.
Word sprints. In distant libraries and temples, new diagrams appear. Some call it the wisdom of the stranger. Others claim he was a son of Thoth. The myths build, but so do the methods.
We find echoes of this in real history. Egyptian astronomy appearing in Mesopotamian texts, shared calendars across regions. In this alternate timeline, Einstein becomes the catalyst. He doesn't conquer, he connects.
And yet, even in this golden glow of progress, a shadow still lingers. Because while students learn to measure time, generals learn to measure distance. And while scribes chart the stars, advisors begin asking questions about the earth beneath them and what lies beyond the borders of the Nile. As Einstein's diagrams multiply and his clock tracks the sky with divine precision, a different kind of planning begins inside the palace walls. The pharaoh's generals study new road layouts, river crossing estimates, and the perfect angles for siege weaponry. They no longer rely on the gods to win battles. They rely on math. Einstein watches quietly as a royal engineer uses one of his old scribbles to build a weight-based catapult. That night, he walks alone to the edge of the palace gardens, his face lined with guilt.
This moment echoes something very real from Einstein's life. In the 1930s, he feared what others might do with physics, especially as fascism rose in Europe. That fear led him to warn Roosevelt about atomic weapons, a decision that haunted him. Here, even displaced by millennia, that same weight returns.
Einstein refuses an invitation to help design battlefield formations. He declines a gold collar offered by the pharaoh's war council. In private, he pleads with the high priest to speak to Ramesses about restraint. But war is in the air. Border tensions with the Hittites rise. Troops assemble near Memphis. And in the throne room, the pharaoh holds one of Einstein's sand table calculations in his hand. He smiles.
Einstein isn't just afraid of what could happen. He's grappling with the idea that he might be the reason it happens. That knowledge, even offered in peace, doesn't stay peaceful. It becomes power. And power attracts ambition.
In a scroll he never finishes, Einstein writes, "A clock that tells the truth can't choose who reads it. But I wish it could." At sunrise, he asks to return to the temple schools. Permission is granted, but with guards now posted near his quarters. Whispers begin. Some say he's grown disloyal. Others say he's become too powerful. Despite it all, Einstein continues to teach. But his diagrams begin to change. More questions than answers. More sketches of balance, of opposites. He studies Mahat, the goddess of order and harmony, and wonders whether wisdom must always be tested by force.
This was the paradox of ancient Egypt. They built for eternity, yet feared disorder more than death. Einstein, with all his understanding, becomes part of that struggle. He's trying to seed knowledge without letting it tip into destruction. That's the hardest kind of legacy to protect.
In the final years of Ramesses' reign, the temples grow quieter. The schools multiply. New schools open along the Nile. And Einstein, now older, sits beside the river, sketching in silence as children play nearby. He has refused court titles. He has declined monuments. But the people still come. To ask questions. To share discoveries. To thank him. His star clock is now housed in the Temple of Heliopolis. No longer a curiosity, it is considered essential, consulted before every major planting, ritual, and civic ceremony. Not because it tells the future, but because it reminds them to look up, to think, to ask why.
What Einstein gave Egypt wasn't a tool. It was a lens, a way of seeing the world. Whether they believed in RA or relativity, what mattered was that they were thinking more critically than ever before.
Babylonian scholars now correspond with Egyptian scribes, trading scrolls and questions. In Byblos, a merchant builds a workshop to replicate Einstein's celestial models. In Nubia, a temple carves a sun path on its floor in his honor. In time, the man himself begins to fade into story. But the story endures.
This is the ultimate legacy of displacement. The name may vanish. The person may disappear. But the ripple, the idea, travels on. And that's what makes this such a powerful what-if, because even in fiction, we understand the truth beneath it.
Long after his final walk along the Nile, a temple inscription is discovered. It bears no name, just an image, a man pointing to the stars, and a single phrase etched below it, written in hieroglyphs. He measured the heavens, but never claimed them. You've been listening to Displaced History. This episode was Genius in the Sand, an immersive exploration of alternate history. Special thanks to our guests, Dr. Layla Hassan, Egyptologist Dr. Amir Farid, physicist and Einstein historian, and Professor Omar El-Sayed, philosopher of science and ethics, for guiding us through this tapestry of fact and fiction. Join us next time as we unravel another historical what if.